Hello and welcome to another edition of the ASCA Weekly Podcast. I am your host, Charles Fallon, back in here with another edition of the ASCA Weekly Podcast, as I literally just said 5 seconds ago. Um, so definitely not much happened last week. We totally didn't have 5 days of racing. We didn't have multiple last lap passes, big accidents, post race fisticuffs, upset winners, you name it, all of the above. A back to back Ajax 200 winner. Oh, no, 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 no. Nothing important. We didn't just get the 2025 season underway or anything in dramatic fashion. Totally not. Um, yeah. So basically, we're going to be recapping all the speed weeks, going through all of that and the dramatic ending specifically to the 12th annual Ajax 200. That's the talk of the town right now. And we'll also be going through the CrossFit Series season opener. Also, the Intel shootout, the duels, recapping all of that, talking about what Todd Kidd's back-to-back Ajax 200 wins mean for his long-term legacy in the sport. We'll also be talking about the potential for the Cup Series schedule to be expanding once again to 17 races for the 2026 season. That'd be pretty wild. And then we'll also be previewing the Streets of Computerville, the ASA's backyard. That's our next race this upcoming weekend, and it should be a fun one indeed, to say the least. But first, before we get into anything, we need to talk about, shout out, the ASCA's premier partners. We begin with Rowdy Energy. You already know the drill. Click the link in bio. Get yourself a Rowdy Energy to keep you awake throughout the rest of this podcast. You already know any one of the flavors you want. There's a bunch of new ones out as well. Go cop yourself one. Why not? So go do it. Click the link in bio. Get yourself one, or a 4-pack, or maybe a 12-pack. Whatever you want. Just go cop yourself one. And then Circle B Diecast, Plan B sales. Use coupon code ASCA for free shipping on any orders $20 or more. To get a replica diecast of the one that Todd Kidd used to win the 12th annual Ajax 200, or a replica diecast of the one Diego Artidi used to win the 2024 Ajax Cup Series Championship. If you want any of those, click that. Actually, don't click the link in bio for Circle B Diecast Plan B sales. Just head on over to the website, and then on any orders $20 or more, use coupon code ASCA for free shipping. So shout out to the sports media partners once again: Rowdy Energy, Circle B Diecast, Plan B sales, and let's get into it. So we'll begin with the talk of the town. And first off, let me just say, the ASC has completely nailed it with this current plate package. Like, it does not get any better than this. I think the racing that we saw on Saturday surpasses even what we saw back in 2019 with that plate package. And we're going on 4 straight years of it. This is the 4th year. Obviously, it's undergone some tweaking to make it safer for the drivers, but that hasn't necessarily taken the entertainment factor. And I know that there are drivers, specifically, I know Lucas Sambero was complaining that, it's too Russian roulette style. We need to bring the finesse back into plate racing, and all these big wrecks and all these big accidents, all this and that and everything else. Apologies for the yawn right there. It's been a long day, but this plate package is perfect for Ajax Super Speedway. And remember, this is only 2 races a year that we're using it. 14 races a year, we get to see these drivers finesse and wheel their cars around. But for 2 races a year, just let us have this. Let us have this moment. And I think that fans can agree. Well, most fans can agree. They probably do not want to go back to the 2020 and 2021 package that was used. Most fans hated that. They really did not like that style of plate racing. They much prefer this one. And, obviously a lot of people would say that the other style of play racing that include much more finesse, much more strategy, much more teamwork. That was much more a 200-mile-an-hour game of chess. Um, but we also still saw big accidents, in the 2020 Ajax 200 where only 5 cars finished, and then Shane Park's violent accident where he broke his wrist in the 2021 Ajax 200. So, even that's not foolproof. So as long as we're still racing at Ajax Super Speedway, which I mean, come on, the track's name is Ajax Super Speedway. Of course, we're going to keep racing there regardless. As long as that's there, this needs to be the play package that's used, or at least some sort of variation of it. It has not missed since being put into the sport, and the only time it has missed is when Bob Halpert has specifically told the drivers, "Hey, you guys are going way too much at it. You got to calm down." So, there's an off switch for the action if they're getting too rowdy, if they're getting too reckless. Turn that off switch on, and they can run single file for a bit. But when they want to race, when they want to go at it, I mean, the racing that we saw for the first 85 laps, and even after the big one happened for that final 6-lap shootout, that was incredible stuff. That was incredible stuff. Definitely one of the best ASCA races I think I've ever seen. So, fantastic racing overall. And let's begin by talking about, yes, that incident on the last lap and breaking down who is at fault. Was it Jared Ayers' fault? Was it Ross Jackson's fault? Did Ayers come up too much? Did Ayers come up too much? Did Jackson come down too much? What happened there? And I posted this on Twitter after the race. I really think it was a 50-50 deal. I really do. I just think it's a racing incident. I think that it's silly for Ayers and Jackson to both claim it was deliberate on their ends. Like, this is the last lap of one of the most prestigious races of the season. Jared Ayers had not won in 41 cup races prior to this. Ross Jackson has never won an Ajax Cup race entering a contract season. Both of these guys, you knew they were going to be going all out, going for it, trying to secure that victory. And, when that happens, stuff like them tangling, they're getting together, Ayers throwing a bad block. You want to call it that. You want to call it Jackson coming down and turning Ayers in the wall, whatever you want to call it. That's going to happen. And it's a shame for both of them, because they both drove their hearts out. I don't think anyone would have had a problem with either of them winning. They both drove incredible races. But at the end of the day, that's play racing for you. You have to be aggressive, but if you step over that line a little too much, boom, it's over. And we saw that even with the big accident with Marcus Edwards bump drafting Doug Bowden. And, he had been pushing Bowden lap after lap after lap, I think for about 20 straight laps on the high line, no problems. But he pushes Bowden a little too hard one time. Boom, 4-car into the wall, airborne, upside down, and it's a big accident that takes out 11 cars. So, you have a razor thin margin of error when it comes to plate racing in these big ass packs of 20, 22, 25 cars. It's incredible that these guys were able to keep it together that long. I know there was an incident very early in the race between Ward and Bowden, where Ward was trying to come down a block and Bowden was there, and Ward nearly drove the man into the grass, and Bowden was just going berserk over the radio. But that's play racing for you, man. That intensity, that build up, seeing these guys on the edge of control lap after lap after lap. They're mere inches from each other. They're less than centimeters from each other when they're side drafting too. That's another thing. Side drafting is so prevalent with these cars, with this package. Like, you have to be pretty much every lap, you got to be on someone's quarter panel trying to pull them back, or someone's going to be on your quarter panel trying to pull you back. So for people to say that this doesn't take any skill, I don't know what you're watching. But as for the Ayers and Jackson crash, like I said, it's 50-50, man. It really is. It's 50-50. You can't put square blame on either driver. I think both were at fault. There's definitely different things that both drivers could have done to avoid said accident. And ultimately, they both came up empty handed as a result. They both made mistakes in that situation. But it's the last lap. You got to go for it. And Ajax 200 trophies on the line. Ayers is not just going to lay over and let Jackson go by. And Jackson most certainly isn't not going to try to make a move to win the race and potentially save his career in the ASCA or Ronnie Woods Motorsports. That would have been huge had he won that, considering he had come off his second straight dual win as well. So, it sucks for both drivers, but the real man that benefited from all of it was Todd Kidd. How about that? Um, Colin Ward was right behind Ross Jackson when this all broke out, and he had to lift after Jackson turned Ayers into the wall. He had to lift, obviously, because Jackson had to lift. So they both checked up, and Kidd saw an opening and drove by them both on the bottom. And the rest is history. Norm Lester, shout out to him. Started this race, 23rd, 24th, after getting shuffled out in his duel. Laid back throughout the first portion of the race, really laid back throughout the entire race, basically. That's how he avoided the big one as well. He was way in the back. And, that proved to be clutch at the end of the day, because he was still at the back of that pack when that accident between Ayers and Jackson took place. And everything happening there with Ward and then outside lean having to check up, that thrust him into the second spot. And Lester was not going to he's not going to be content with second. So honestly, he gave it his all in his debut race with Taylor Motorsports, and unfortunately came up just short. But you got to applaud the effort out of the 38-year-old, certainly still proving he still got it at this day and age. And how about the effort from the aforementioned rookie Colin Ward? Pole sitter, led the opening 16 laps in his duel before having to drop back debris on his grill. Then he comes out in the actual race. He leads 25 laps. Obviously, he had that little incident with Fallon that was very close. I'd say a little too close for comfort. But that's just a rookie mistake, rookie deal. And he didn't actually take out the field, obviously. It was a close call, but he didn't do anything egregious. He didn't take out the field, basically. So, don't be too hard on him. If he had wrecked the field, it'd be a different story. But he really put on a good showing, and how he continues to do this at Ajax Super Speedway. I mean, when you go back and look at his finishes throughout his ASCA career to date at his home track, throughout his 6 starts to date, he's got first, fifth, led the most laps, first, third, 10th in last year's Ajax 200, and then third in this race. So 6 finishes, all inside the top 10, 5 inside the top 5. It's just incredible what he's able to do here. And it really does prove that plate racing does take skill. Because if it didn't, how would Colin Ward be able to consistently put himself in the right places at the right times? Like that, there is something to that. And I think for Ward, he's got a huge opportunity to really put himself ahead in points. We head to the streets of Computerville. We know how good he is at road courses. We saw just last year in changeable conditions, he absolutely throttled the Craftsman field in that race, led all 25 laps and won with ease. And there's no reason to think that he won't be able to do the same this week, even though it won't be raining at the streets of Computerville. Thank God. So no rain for the Cup race. So that will be interesting. And I like my chances. If you're picking Colin Ward to win at the Shoots Computerville next week, I like my chances with that, honestly. I know he's a rookie. I know he's only 23, but I like my chances. If there's anyone that's going to win in his rookie year, it'd be Colin Ward. I mean, what hasn't he won at this point in his career? So that's enough about Colin Ward. I think we need to talk more about Todd Kidd, though, the race winner, and what this win does for his legacy. So he now moves to 10th, untying himself with Michael White, sole possession of 10th place all time on the AS Cup Series wins list. And he's only 29 years old, mind you. Only 29 years old, just now beginning his 10th Ajax Cup season. Like, there is the potential that he could very well tie the likes of a Nick Orchidi, a Dan Rogers, maybe even a Tico Bowden by the time this season ends. And it's Todd Kidd is going to go down as one of the greatest drivers in ASC history. I think he will go down one day as an ASC Hall of Famer. And I think now that he's especially got these 3 Crown Jewel wins within his last 16 starts, that proves it right there. I mean, what more do you want out of the California kid? You know, people used to say, oh, he can't win the prestigious races. Well, now he's got 3. The only thing that he's missing at this point is a championship. And even if he didn't win a championship, I think he would still be a Hall of Famer at this point. Would he be a Hall of Famer right now? I honestly believe the answer is yes, especially with back-to-back 200s. That's something that not even Dan Rogers had been able to accomplish. I know you're like, oh, it's a Mickey win. He only took the lead on the final lap because all the leaders are like blah, 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 blah. Mickey wins don't mean anything. They still count as wins in the stat book. So miss me with the Mickey win talk, okay? That doesn't mean anything. It's a win is a win. And Kidd got the win. Back-to-back 200s. Again, not even Dan Rogers had done that. The king of ASCA plate racing. Not even he did that. So that just goes to show the run that Todd Kidd is on and the legacy that he's starting to leave for himself. And he's far from done. Again, he's only 29 years old. We're only at the beginning of the 2025 season. So we still got a long ways to go. We got another 15 races. This could very well be his year. He's starting out with the points lead. Always good to start out with the points lead, that's for sure. Only way you can go is downhill from here. But hey, maybe he can hold on to it. Better to be at the top and fall down than have to climb your way up. I would say for sure. So that's big for Todd Kidd, and especially when you consider his title rivals like Shane Park, Diego Urquidy, both of those guys DNF'd. Cameron Atwood, Greg Healy, those guys DNF'd as well. Even Laquan Scranton, he finished ninth, getting caught up in that last lap, those last lap shenanigans. Like, he didn't really have many championship contenders around him that survived the chaos and calamity. Not many even survived the big wreck. Randall Wood's another big name that was involved in that crash. Nick Orchidi, a lot of big names were involved in the crash. So, great news for Todd Kidd. And as long as he can keep this up at the streets of Computerville, if he can potentially go out and win again, I mean, he'll have a huge cushion heading into West Virginia, another track that he's won at. And Kidd has not won at the streets of Computerville, but he has won at West Virginia. He has won at the Zone Yard. Disney is probably his worst track, but of course he's won twice at Belltown. You get my point. What I'm saying is it's looking good for Todd Kidd right now to have this cushion over a lot of the drivers who we expected for him to be competing for this championship against. That is the point of all of this. Now, transitioning to the Craftsman Series, how about Nick Painter, man? Nick Painter has been going crazy. And last year, he started on pole with this brand new team, Kirk Autosport, started by this Florida billionaire, Anthony Kirk. No one knew what to expect out of this team. And I don't think anyone certainly saw coming his win at Belltown, leading 69 of 100 laps, having the dominant car that day out of nowhere going to victory lane. I don't think anyone saw that one coming. And it's hard to say that people saw this one coming either, you know? Um, as I was saying earlier, he started on pole in the season opener last year, and he was out of the race by lap 8. This year, he fails inspection. He starts dead last. He survives the opening lap calamity, literally less than 10 seconds after the green flag drop. Nearly half the field's eliminated. He survives that. He gets lucky, a big break with Gunnar Thorson, the leader, blowing a tire during the green flag pit stop cycle. He was at the head of the queue that had already boxed, so he assumed the lead, and he didn't let it go. That's the rest of the story. So you could say right place, right time with Painter as well, but here's the deal. That's 2 wins in his last 12 starts with Kirk Autosport for a guy that only had 1 win in his first 6 seasons, racing for Tico Bound Motorsports and the Ford Development Program. And that's throughout the entire ASCA. So it seems like Nick Painter is really starting to figure things out. It seems like Kirk Autosport's really starting to figure things out. And I think we need to see what happens at the Shoots Computer Room before we can really call Nick Painter a championship threat. Because, last season he was fine at Ajax Super Speedway. He wrecked out at both races, but he ran well in them. So wrecking out and doesn't mean you didn't run well, of course, at a plate track, because anything can happen there. But we saw that on the road courses, especially, and on the bigger tracks as well, Painter really struggled. So I really think that if Painter is going to be a title contender, these next 2 races are going to be crucial. We know he's got the short tracks pretty much down pat. He can get results at those. But when it comes to the streets of Computerville, when it comes to West Virginia, I want to see results before I consider Nick Painter a championship contender. And I know that, the defending champion, Grant Daugherty, he's in a hole. Ian Adonde, he's in a hole. Those guys are in holes they got to claw back out of. That certainly does help Painter's case. I know that Colin Ward and Marcus Edwards aren't competing anymore. That also helps Painter's case. But you got to look at the man that finished second, Tony Del Valle, that second, and say, hey, this kid might be a thorn in Painter's side. First time out at Ajax Super Speedway to come out and finish second on debut in a plate race, that's pretty darn impressive. And especially what was impressive to me was the way that he was racing with Adam Petty Jr. on the final lap. I mean, these two were at war. Del Valle would side draft Petty. He'd take the advantage. Petty would side draft Del Valle. He'd take the advantage. Del Valle would come back, another side draft, and it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It was absolutely bonkers, just crazy how these guys are going guns a-blazing, going after each other like that. But you love to see it. You really do. It was fantastic racing. And obviously that ended up really giving Painter the win, was them going at it that hard. But Del Valle proved a lot to me. And we'll see how he does on his first ASCA road race. The streets computer, but especially for rookies, very tough. And we've seen, we saw Grant Daugherty just last year fail to finish in the top 10 here. So that tells you something. Although that was a changeable conditions race in his first time out the streets Computerville. So, that's also something as well. But we'll see how Del Valle does. Maybe Adam Petty Jr. can be a championship threat. We already know Sean Wooden will be a championship threat. So it's far from in the bag, this title for Nick Painter. But to start the season off with the win, you certainly can't go wrong there, to say the least. Next up, let's talk about next year. And I know we just started this year. Why are we talking about next year? We've already talked about next year enough with the turbo hybrid engine coming in the Cup Series. Now we're hearing rumors from ASCA race director Bob Halper, who can confirm that these rumors are true, that the ASCA has an interest in expanding the schedule, the Cup Series schedule, to 17 races next season with the sport's first doubleheader. So, it would be a race. The tentative plan that I'm hearing is a race on, I believe, the plan is a race on Saturday night and then a race on Sunday afternoon. That's the tentative plan that they're rolling with right now for this. We'll see how it works with the scheduling and all of that. It'd be very interesting. I would be down to see it, but the ASC has never done a doubleheader. And, I saw a lot of blowback on Twitter from fans not happy that the ASC is looking to hold this doubleheader at the Michigan Road Course. That is the leader right now, the leading track for it. I don't know why. If you don't like the racing at Michigan, well, like it's gonna be a shorter race. Like it's gonna be longer overall, but basically give it a shot. That's what I'm saying. Just give it a shot, okay? I applaud the ASCA for all they've done trying to really transform Michigan into a marketable track for the fans. Obviously, there's been a lot of backlash about the lack of action that has taken place there over the years, and I beg to differ, honestly. When you especially look at these last few races, like you look at Shane Park's first win there back in 2023, and then you look at Park and Scranton again going at it there last year. You look at Nick Ortiz denying Park of his first win in 2022. Like there has been so many memorable moments at Michigan over the years. Like it's not as bad of a track as everyone's making it out to seem. And I'd love to see a doubleheader there, honestly. I don't know how they're gonna go about, the weekend schedule. Will Craftsman still be racing that weekend? I don't know. But I think the ASJ could be onto something. And I love to see it, honestly. I really would. So 17 races next year. I am all for this. I'd love to see it. And it'd be really interesting, really fun, and give another guy an opportunity to reach victory lane potentially. I'm all for it. You know, the ASC is always looking to expand, especially as they continue to draw in more and more fan support. Shout out to the fans for making all of this possible to begin with. You guys are the real MVPs, and the ASC, they respond to you and they want to put on the best show possible for the fans. That's really the main goal, the main purpose of the sport. So I'd love to see an extra race next year. And who would be opposed to more racing? That's just me. That's just me. Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to more racing, but maybe some of you guys are. So it is what it is. We'll see. It might not even happen. Who knows at this point? But I'm definitely looking forward to it, to say the least, if it does happen. Now, on to the final subject of the weekend, and that is previewing the streets of Computerville. Man, so we're going road racing this weekend. Hard to believe. It's still going to take some getting used to. I kept writing down West Virginia. Oh, we're going to West Virginia this week. West Virginia, West Virginia, West Virginia. For some reason, I forgot that the Streets of Computerville was changed to be the second race of the season last year. Like, this isn't new. This is a new change for this year. But I keep thinking we're going to West Virginia. That's next week. This week, Streets of Computerville. And this is going to be a huge race, I think, in really kind of leveling the playing field of the championship. I think it's a big opportunity for, I think, the Orchidi brothers to make up some ground for guys like a Shane Park, a Randall Woods, a Brent Renard, to really kind of bounce back. But once again, for a guy like a Greg Healy, he's going to be in a hole again. Um, in this case for Healy, though, we do know that he has a new teammate in Lucas Sambert, who is much better at road racing than Bryce Mann, his former teammate. So maybe Sambert can teach him a trick or two about road racing and help him get up there. But I look at a guy like a Healy, he's going to be in a big hole if he can't at least bounce back and finish top 10. And even if he does, he's still going to be in a hole. You know, you really cannot afford a DNF in the Ajax 200. And yeah, Healy took a loss there. He could not afford that. So it's a big opportunity as well for Todd Kidd to further extend his points cushion. If he can have another good race, another good week, this could be huge for him to really kind of build something up and really assert himself as, hey, I am the championship favorite. For Shane Park, big opportunity for him to go back to back and at the streets of Computerville and really prove he can really assert himself as a title favorite. For Colin Ward, another guy who has an opportunity to build up a points cushion here and say, hey, I am the real deal. I am that dude. Huge chance for him to do that. We'll see. And it's going to be a big opportunity for road ringers like a Jack Ayers, like a Ryan Dixon, like a Park, like a Scranton, like a Woods. Both of the Urquidy brothers, they both won here. It's a huge chance for these guys to shine. Like a Tommy Woods even. Almost forgot about him. These guys have a big opportunity to really kind of claw their way towards the top of the standings before we get a real kind of taste of where everyone's at this year at West Virginia. Just like last year, I don't think this is a true litmus test, although it kind of is, because we saw in this race last year, Park was first, Urquidy, Diego, was second, Scranton was third. That was really, your top three, minus Todd Kidd, who finished, I believe, seventh or something. So he was still up there a bit. So this could turn out to be a litmus test. I don't think it will be, though. I think that we still need to wait and see until West Virginia to see, okay, who really has it right this year, the final year, the new regs, who's really going all out and who's really kind of conserving and planning for turbo hybrid regs. That is what we're going to find out this weekend. So I'm pretty excited to see that. And I'm pretty excited to see some road racing. Clear skies this weekend, no changeable conditions for these drivers to worry about. My picks for the weekend, though, I'm going to go bold this weekend. In the Craftsman Series, Laquan Scranton entered. Laquan got robbed of this race last year. He got ran over by Jared Ayers on the opening lap. So I'm going to pick Laquan Scranton to win that pretty easy. As for the Cup race, that's a really tough one. There are so many drivers that have kind of emerged as great road ringers. But you can't go wrong picking Shane Park on a road course. 5 straight top 2 finishes in these road races. I don't see why he doesn't go to victory lane again. So my picks are Scranton and Park. Very generic, but that's where we are. So that's it for this edition of the ASCA Weekly Podcast. Shout out to the sports premier partners, Rowdy Energy and Circle B Diecast, Plan B Sales. Thank you all for everything you do for the sport. Thank you to the fans and anyone that listened to this for sticking around this long. And this is Charles Fallon signing out. We'll see you after the streets of Computerville.